All right, let's dive right into this explainer and look at how a literal spinning disk in a vacuum might just save our aging electrical grid. For decades now, we've basically been told that transitioning to renewable energy means we just have to accept brittle power lines and fragile chemical batteries. But what if there's a third path? Today, we're unpacking a totally revolutionary approach to energy storage that essentially stores sunlight as pure physical motion. Seriously, think about that for a second. What if a spinning disk could completely power your home during a blackout? Imagine a machine sitting on your property right now, and it has absolutely zero lithium, no cobalt, no flammable liquids inside, and honestly, no expiration date. We're talking about a system that stores massive amounts of energy as pure kinetic motion, just waiting there in perfect silence to instantly power your life the very second the traditional grid fails. I know it sounds straight out of science fiction, but this reality is happening right now. And the sheer scale of this is already absolutely massive. We are not talking about some fun prototype sitting on a lab bench gathering dust. A company called Taurus, based out of Salt Lake City, Utah, has actually already deployed systems managing over 1 gigawatt of facility power across the US this year alone. They've secured $200 million to scale up their manufacturing, and these systems, they're already running at massive data centers, huge cement plants, and international airports. Okay, let's get into Section 1, the lithium energy crisis and its hidden vulnerabilities. To really understand why this is such a game changer, we have to look at the status quo. We've spent the last 10 years completely obsessed with lithium ion. You know, it's in our phones, our cars, and increasingly it's mounted right there on the walls of our garages. But here is the dirty little secret of lithium that the industry rarely talks about: its severe limitations. When someone sells you a lithium Powerwall, they almost never mention that it's slowly murdering its own chemistry with every single charge and discharge cycle. After about 3,000 to 8,000 cycles, it's just a fraction of the battery it once was. Plus, you have to factor in its extreme sensitivity to hot and cold, the very real fire risks, and a geopolitical mining supply chain that is frankly a total nightmare. But the absolute Achilles heel of chemical batteries is something called the 10 millisecond gap. Picture a modern AI data center. When its workload randomly spikes and demands massive power in under 10 milliseconds, a lithium battery just hesitates. It literally has to calculate and warm up its chemistry. And in that tiny, microscopic gap of time, highly sensitive equipment dies, massive amounts of money burn, and the entire electrical grid basically wobbles. Chemical batteries simply cannot respond fast enough to the pure chaos of the modern grid. Which brings us to Section 2, pure motion in a vacuum, and the physics of flywheels. That exact hesitation in lithium is exactly why a technology as old as the pottery kickwheel, the flywheel, is being resurrected right now with aerospace-level precision. It is completely changing how we store and deploy power. Here's the breakdown of how it works. Step 1, your solar panels produce excess energy during the day. Step 2, that electricity drives a motor that accelerates a massive, super precisely balanced rotor that's magnetically levitated inside a perfect vacuum. Step 3, your home or the grid suddenly demands a spike of power. And step 4, that exact same motor instantly becomes a generator. See, the energy isn't stored as chemical potential. It's literally locked in as the pure physical speed of that spin. And the efficiency rate on this thing is staggering. When a huge demand hits, let's say your electric vehicle charger kicks on suddenly, the system slows down imperceptibly. Just by bleeding off a tiny, tiny fraction of its rotational speed, it converts that pure kinetic energy back into clean, super stable AC electricity with an incredible 85 to 95% round-trip efficiency. I love this phrase that perfectly describes how this operates. Just the immediate, violent generosity of physics. When that power is needed, there is absolutely no chemical reaction to wait around for. There's no complex battery management system to digitally negotiate with. It doesn't pause to calculate anything. It just delivers raw, unadulterated power instantly, exactly when the grid demands it. It's such a stark, fascinating contrast when you put them side by side. On one hand, you've got lithium ion, entirely reliant on complex chemical reactions, constantly degrading from day one, and fundamentally too slow to catch those split-second power spikes. On the other hand, you have the flywheel, pure kinetic energy, effectively infinite cycles, and a literally instantaneous reaction time. It's just a fundamental advantage in raw physics. Moving right along to Section 3, the hybrid symphony, or orchestrating technology. Now, the real genius of Taurus's approach here is recognizing that the future isn't about picking just one technology and completely abandoning the rest. It's about orchestrating them together. Because flywheels don't actually replace lithium, they protect it. In their hybrid power plant model, Taurus pairs two very distinct systems. First, there's the NovaSpin, their flywheel system. This guy reacts in under 250 milliseconds and delivers 20 times the power density of a chemical battery. Then they pair it with the NovaPulse, which is a lithium iron phosphate battery system. The NovaPulse is there to handle the long-duration discharge. You know, that steady baseline support that actually keeps your lights on for hours through the night. So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is this strict division of labor. The Novaspin flywheel essentially steps in first as the bodyguard. It absorbs all those brutal, sharp energy spikes and inrush currents that would normally just grind standard lithium cells to dust. And because the indestructible flywheel is taking all the hits, the overall system achieves an incredible 99.9% uptime, completely preserving the delicate chemistry of the battery for when it's truly needed. And because that flywheel takes all of the daily abuse, think about your heat pump constantly cycling on and off all day, or your EV charger surging. The entire hybrid system's lifespan is totally transformed. Instead of dying after a few thousand uses like a standard battery, this combination can last 25,000 cycles or more. Guys, we are talking about a lifespan measured in decades, and it's virtually immune to deep winter freezes or extreme summer heat. Finally, let's check out Section 4, the distributed utility layer, a new grid architecture. If we zoom out to a macro geopolitical scale for a second, we can really see how this whole architecture reshapes our homes, our businesses, and our national infrastructure. Taurus is building what they call a distributed utility layer. Basically, this is a foundational grid operating system. Under this model, thousands of these modular power plants, whether they're sitting in your garage or powering a massive airport, are all constantly communicating with each other. Your home actually transforms from a passive consumer just sitting at the mercy of the grid into an active modular power plant responding to real-time utility signals. So what does that actually look like in practice? Well, it means true active grid participation. During a blackout or a massive failure, these systems will automatically island themselves. They instantly disconnect from the dying grid to keep your local loads running without a single interruption. But when the grid is just stressed on a hot summer day, your system can actually feed power back. It stabilizes grid frequency and voltage in milliseconds and actively shaves off peak demand, which is currently saving massive industrial customers literal millions of dollars. Now, if you're wondering when all of this is actually going to happen, the scaling is happening incredibly fast right now. Taurus was only founded in 2021. Within 6 months of existing, they filled an initial 70-megawatt agreement. And presently, Rocky Mountain Power, which is a massive utility covering several western states, has already signed a memorandum of understanding for up to 500 megawatts. This tech is scaling at warp speed, and it's being adopted by highly conservative industrial operators who literally cannot afford a single second of downtime. And we can't ignore this vital piece of the puzzle, the supply chain. By designing and manufacturing almost all of the hardware, firmware, and software within just 150 miles of their Utah headquarters and sourcing their battery components strictly from North America, they are creating the very first fully North American supply chain for this kind of technology. That means true decentralized energy independence that completely bypasses the need for massive new transmission lines or brittle overseas dependencies. Look, the traditional centralized grid, which is currently struggling under the immense weight of AI data centers and global electrification, is dying. A new, resilient, and brilliantly decentralized utility is being born right in front of us. So the only question left for us to ask is, are you ready for your home to become a power plant? And when will you invite the awe-inspiring physics of the flywheel on